Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning get together live. Today, we are obviously live here on Facebook this morning, 20th of November. It is Mexican Revolution Day, and it is a pleasure to get together with you this morning, as always, to share headlines from our city, state, and country, to share your thoughts, comments, and ideas and suggestions on our city, Puerto Vallarta. How can we connect? How can we relate? How can we become more local minded as a community of English speaking folk living here? Some of us year round, some of us for smaller periods, but ultimately all hoping to better connect with the destination. It is always a pleasure to see you, particularly after a weekend of being away. I hope you enjoyed some of the pre-recorded content. I looked at some of your contents and I saw all kinds of favorable notes on the fact that we went shopping for Mexican products at La Comer, and then we had a little glimpse into the history of the Mexican Revolution. We looked at some corridos. Well, we looked at the idea of the corrido. Unfortunately, we cannot play corridos here on the broadcast because of copyright issues. But it's good to be home. Guadalajara was great. I'll tell you about it after the weather break. But first, as always, I want to welcome each and every one of you to this morning's broadcast, and particularly those of you that are watching live for the first time. If that is you, simply feel free to write the word new in your comment. We'll give you a nice little welcome. And as always, if there's something really pressing that you wish to share with everybody, a capital letter Q goes a long way for us to find your comments, such as this one from Albert. Welcome back, Paco. Hola, cluster, on this fine manic Monday. Well, good morning to you, Albert. Guadalajara is awaiting for you, and it looks splendid as always. So I'll be looking for these cues later on, but in the meantime, let us take a quick look at what we have in the news. And for starters, while we were out on the weekend gallivanting through our capital city, the previously announced open water swimming race competition took place successfully this past Saturday here in Puerto Vallarta, with close to 300 swimmers participating in different categories. This was a first-time event, and authorities are hoping that the event will join other sports-related events that continue to attract visitors to our city throughout the year. For those of us wondering if the city has some sort of strategy or plan to address the improvement needs throughout the city, and in particular in the downtown area, the Municipal Tourism Office claims there is such a plan in place to beautify and improve the Malecón, to paint facades of businesses in the El Centro area, and to bring some order to garbage collection schedules. So the good news is there is a plan, or so they say. Whether anyone can walk into City Hall or the Municipal Tourism Office and ask to see a copy of the plan or not, well, that is a different matter altogether. And speaking of plans, the plan is slightly different in Acapulco, where locals continue to deal with the outcome of Hurricane Otis after it caused major damages throughout the city and its surroundings. Acapulco Lady Mayor Avelina Lopez has declared that the municipality does not have the budget to clean damages caused in private properties, and she's been quite clear with her message. If your home was damaged, you must address it yourselves. In other words, if there is mess inside of your private property, it's up to you to clean it up and not up to the government, which sounds harsh, but makes sense if I can step away from the script this morning. For those of you that don't know, obviously, Acapulco was severely damaged through the last hurricane of the season, Hurricane Otis. I think it'll take about 2.5 years for Acapulco to recover. Why is that significant to us? Well, because the federal government declared that the national emergency cost or that was put into effect due to the hurricane is over. Why did the federal government say that? Well, because nobody's life is in danger, or so was the argument of the federal government. A number of people didn't like that idea. A number of people expected that the government will continue to help through more of the recovery phase. The government has made, at least the federal government has made its stance clear. And what this means, and I've read a couple of editorials here in Puerto Vallarta in the last few days, that what happened in Acapulco could have happened to us and could happen to us in the future. Whether the buildings are built to withstand hurricanes or not is one thing, and it's an important thing to consider if you're shopping for a new home in Puerto Vallarta and you've been dazzled by some of those condo buildings. You may want to ask some questions there. But more importantly, if Puerto Vallarta was to suffer the type of hurricane that Acapulco suffered, we need to be prepared as a city to have the proper funding put aside just in case we need to recover from such a calamity. But, obviously you shouldn't lose any sleep over this. It's just an important lesson to keep in mind moving forward as we continue through the rest of this year, and then to think about in the next hurricane season. But enough of that. I have more regional news. Last week, we announced a nationwide increase on the highway tolls, and Contralinea has kindly added up the amount of money it now takes to do a round trip to Guadalajara on automobile. The 6 toll booths between Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara will set you back 994 pesos each way, or almost 2,000 pesos for the round trip. So that's when we factor. A lot of us like to take our own car to Guadalajara and back, maybe because we want to be moving about in our vehicle, maybe because we want to buy a bunch of chingaderas and we need a place to put them. But for the most part, if you're traveling to Guadalajara by yourself, 2,000 pesos in your own vehicle, but it's less expensive if you take the bus. It's just food for thought. It's even less expensive if you take the plane, as some people choose to. Some of my friends took the plane to Guadalajara this weekend. When I asked them, so between getting to the airport and dealing with the wait and getting in and out of the plane and all that stuff, how much time did it take you to fly from Puerto Vallarta to Guadalajara? And they said, well, close to 5 hours. So that is another food for thought. Is it really worth getting on a plane when it's going to take the same amount of time as going on a very comfortable bus? That's entirely up to you to decide. And our last bit of news has to do with COVID vaccines. The federal government has just announced the arrival of 648,000 additional doses of the Russian Sputnik 5 COVID vaccine at Mexico City's Felipe Ángeles International Airport. These vaccines, of course, will be used as part of the ongoing nationwide seasonal flu and COVID-19 vaccination campaign that began on October 16 and will continue through March 31st of next year. And this wraps up our first block of news. Let us now take a quick look at what's going on with our local weather and what Snarky Weatherman has to say Oh, that's cute. The weatherman says, Jesus coupon collecting Christ. It's particularly cloudy. I had never heard of Jesus coupon collecting Christ, but we learn something new every day. It is 28 degrees Celsius out there, Fahrenheit degrees. Our temperature is 82. Humidity is high, although we wonder why it's still so high at 75%. And our weather forecast for today says that we're going to have mostly cloudy skies in the morning with rain in the afternoon, a high of 31 and a low of 26. Tomorrow, Tuesday, will be a humid day with mostly clear skies, but a few clouds may be wandering around, a high of 30 and a low of 23. And hump day, Wednesday, we'll experience light rain throughout the day, a chance of rain of 68%, so we may actually have rain, a high of 29 and a low of 23. And moving right along, I have a couple of other things to say before we get into a little bit of a Guadalajara account. For starters, it's been 60 years since John Huston's film The Night of the Iguana was produced locally, and this year the local branch of the Guadalajara University will present a 2-day celebration of the anniversary. This will take place on November 21st and 22nd. There are more details about the planned activities in the reference news item, which as always you can find in the show notes after the broadcast. And of course, we're gearing up for tomorrow's country music presentation. From dusty trails to chart-topping tales, tomorrow we will tackle country music, where it came from, why it remains important, and what were the factors that contributed for country music to consolidate as a quintessentially American music genre. If you have nothing better to do and you want to join us, this will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the Joint Boutique Hotel and Co-work, as always. So, Guadalajara, I have become so reliant on these periodic exposures to big city that I just, now it becomes kind of like a done deal. I'm always looking for good opportunities and good excuses to go and spend some time in Guadalajara. This time was no exception. The primary goals were a screening of an opera, The Life and Times of Malcolm X, which was broadcast live from New York City's Metropolitan Opera House. And then on the same day, we went to see a RuPaul Drag Race production on the same night. So in a matter of 12 hours, we went from the very deconstructed abstract modernism of the Malcolm X opera to the very queer and fabulous presentation of a bunch of former Drag Race winners sashaying away through several costume changes in a local auditorium in Guadalajara. Both events were a lot of fun. The whole thing started with 6 of us hopping on a bus early in the morning, and we started laughing early on Friday because when you get to the bus terminal here in Puerto Vallarta, there's a waiting lounge, and the waiting lounge has a sliding door which says in Spanish, very appropriately, it says "Pase usted," which is a very formal way to say you are welcome to come in to the waiting lounge. But the English translation just made us laugh out loud because a very formal, very polite "Pase usted" was translated as a very ordinary English "get in," and we thought that was fun. Of course, the sights in Guadalajara were beautiful. The weather was fantastic. Needless to say, I was traveling with at least one crocheting friend, so we had to go on a yart, which is a yarn acquisition road trip because all the yarn houses were not far from the hotel. I scored some awesome yarn to make bags, shopping bags, and things like that. It was very inexpensive because, of course, Mexico was celebrating El Buen Fin, so we found a couple of great deals. I cheated on Dr. Simi. I couldn't help it, but at some point I still think it's a giant cat. Some of my friends are trying to persuade me into thinking that I fell in love with a giant husky Doug, but I still think I was hugging a giant inflatable cat. So don't try to persuade me that he was a husky. All I know is that Dr. Simi said to me, Paco, you can cheat on me anytime you choose to. And that's a little bit of Guadalajara. I will share some photos at some point. I am sure I haven't even gone through them. Oh, and speaking of photos, we had a fantastic meet and greet this past Thursday evening, and our friend Eric, um, as always, made some gorgeous, gorgeous photographs of the meet and greet at Whiskey Kitchen. I will be sharing them with you in the coming days. And with that said, let us take a quick look at what you're up to. I see lots of good mornings as always, which is absolutely beautiful. Let's see. Purim pum pum pum. Luisa, it is so fun to get together in Guadalajara with our Guadalajara correspondent Luisa and her husband Luke. We all went together to have fabulous dinner on Friday night. And here is Eric, who I just mentioned. Eric, thank you so much for the beautiful photographs. It is so wonderful to see how all of you, as members of the cluster, find ways to nurture this project in your own way. And Eric, without me ever asking, really, he has taken it upon himself to capture our meet and greets with beautiful photographs. Thank you so very much, Eric. Let's see what else we have. Oh, there's a new person, Des. Hello, Des. It is great to see you. Welcome to the cluster. If you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, you are more than welcome to share them with us. And there's another new person, Steve. Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you're looking to make connections with other people or specific aspects of being here in Puerto Vallarta, feel free to let us know. Again, a capital letter Q always helps. Let's see what else. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Looking for more cues. Oh, Luisa says Guadalajara misses you already. Well, I'm already making plans to go back to Guadalajara once or twice in January. Oh, this is part of what I was wanting to know. Zoe, it is so great to read you. See you in January. Very sad that Encanto has closed, but I'll be doing a few afternoon shows at the Palm and also touring Mexico. Can't wait to see you. Well, Zoe, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait until your return. It's funny because one of the drag queens that were part of the tour that we saw is, her name is Dame, no, oh dear, help me guys, what is the name of the British Lady Camden. Lady Camden was one of the drag queens that participated in the show that we went to see. And I love Lady Camden because she's very proper and very British, and she's like the boy version of Zoe Lewis. I always think that they are separated twins. Let's see what else. Yes, Harold comments that the International Book Fair in Guadalajara starts November 25th, and it is a huge and very popular expo. It's the largest book expo in all of Latin America. Here's another cue. Mark says, thanks for the chingadera. It's already in use. Thank you, Mark. I remember we had some conversation some time ago here at Coffee and Headlines, and Mark answered a question properly. I don't even remember what it was about, but I said to Mark, okay, next time I see you, I will prize you with one of my crochet creations. And so I did. And Whiskey Kitchen says, anyone want to make an oculto cooking class and dinner together? That's a lovely invitation. So if anybody is looking to join Gina in a cooking class at Oculto, just get in touch with her. Steve, oh my goodness, Steve, what a wonderful question. Where is the explanation? It's not here, but Steve asks, please explain what is a chingadera. Chingadera is a not very nice word. This is not a nice word. It should be used carefully to refer to stuff. When you don't know what the name of something We call it in English. You can say it's a thing. It's a jingamahuki, a thingamajiggy. It's a chachka. A chingadera is something that we use to refer to all kinds of assorted things that we don't know the name of. But the word should be used carefully. If you walk into a store and you say, "Show me your chingaderas," it's kind of like saying, "Show me your shit." So you can only use that term when there is that certain level of trust between you and the other person. And that is what chingadera is. Of course, it comes from the word chingar, which is a very fabulous and complicated word in Spanish because it has a gazillion meanings. And occasionally we quote from the dictionary of chingaderas just so that we can find new and creative uses for the word. Let's see. Da da da. Da 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 da. Looking for more cues. Yes, Filbert grabs it. It's a thingamajig or doohickey. Absolutely. And Pat says, yes, but be careful where you use it. And that is very, very true. Oftentimes we teach colorful language here at Coffee and Headlines, and we try to be clear as to when you can use it at the dinner table and when you probably should not. And with that, we wrap this broadcast. It is a pleasure to be back home. It is a pleasure to see Luna be well taken care of by dear friends that house sit for me in my absence. And of course, it's a pleasure to connect with you. And thank you for allowing me to take some days off every now and then and to leave pre-recorded content for you. Tomorrow, of course, another broadcast, and tomorrow our country music presentation. Hope you can join us. And if you can't, I hope we can connect sometime in the near future. Have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.